Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. And I recently posted on my community tab whether or not you guys would like to receive a tutorial next, and many of you voted for the granny square bag, obviously. Also, if you guys haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to do so. It would mean so much to me. I upload a lot of craft, lifestyle, and beauty videos, so if that sounds like something you might be interested in, then please consider doing so. And without further ado, let's get into the tutorial. For materials, I used a number 4 worsted weight yarn, and you can choose any amount of colors that you would like to add to your design, and then of course a 4mm crochet hook. For this tutorial, we'll be making some simple double crochet granny squares. And to start off our very first row, we are going to be making a magic circle or magic ring. And once you have made your magic circle, go ahead and make sure you have your initial 3 chains. These 3 chains that you make will always count as 1 double crochet for every single row from here on out. So after that, you will make 2 double crochets. Remember that our first chain 3 counts as 1, so in total it will be 3 double crochets. Once you are done with that, you will go ahead and chain 2. This chain 2 will go ahead and make 1 corner. So next you will want to make another set of 3 double crochets. After your 3 double crochets, you will make another 2 chains, and again these 2 chains will make your next corner on your granny square. And after that, again make another 3 double crochets into the magic circle. Alright, so now that your next 3 double crochets are done, again make another 2 chains. And then you will make your last 3 double crochets into the magic circle. So in total, you should have 4 sets of the 3 double crochets and 4 sets of chain 2 spaces. So after that, make your 2 chains again, and then slip stitch into the top of your 3 chains that you made in the beginning of your magic circle. And this is where you will close your magic circle tightly, and you can also weave in your ends right here if you would like to, or wait till the very end, whichever you prefer. But you can also try to crochet your ends into your magic circle. I like to do that as well. I just didn't do it for the sake of this tutorial, but anyways. So to start round 2, again you will chain 3. And remember to chain 3 at the beginning of every single row, but you will make a double crochet on the top of every double crochet from every previous row. So in this case, you make 2 more double crochets, and then in the chain 2 space, go ahead and make 2 double crochets. Once you are done with 2 double crochets, make chain 2. And this chain 2 will be your first corner for your granny square. And then after your chain 2, make another 2 double crochets. This 2 double crochets will start your next side of your granny square. And then again make 3 double crochets, each on the top of the double crochets from the previous row. And then again you will make 2 double crochets once you get to the chain 2 corner space, chain 2, and then again another 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space. Alright, so you will essentially repeat this pattern of double crochets and chain 2s for every single row from here on out. And this is where you can get a little more customizable with your squares, and I did a total of 7 rows of this pattern, but you can honestly do it as big or as little as you wish. And I did a total of 7 rows just for the sake of how much yarn I had, but again, you can make it as big or as little as you wish. So now that all the explaining is out of the way, let's get to some crochet speed roll and tunes. Alright, so this is what my squares are looking at for rows 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Alright, so now that we've made our granny square as big as we wanted, make sure you go ahead and make 2 more, so you'll have a total of 3 big or small granny squares. Alright, to assemble your bag, you're going to want to take one of your squares and fold them in half from one corner to one corner, so it's like a little triangle shape or Dorito, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so fold all 3 of your squares like that into triangles and place them like this. Alright, so now that you have all of your pieces arranged, we're going to go ahead and start sewing them together. Now, feel free to use a darning needle, but I like to slip stitch all of my pieces together. So that's what I will do, and I'm going to go ahead and start in this corner, the bottom right corner over here. Okay, so starting at the corner, grab both of your pieces and make sure to go into the chain 2 space, and you are going to bring up some yarn and make a single crochet. Now after your single crochet, you're going to start slip stitches at the top of every single double crochet all the way until you reach the other end of your granny square. Alright, so now that I've reached the corner, I'm going to go ahead and go into the chain 2 spaces and make my slip stitches through that. Now after I have made my 1 slip stitch through both of these panels, I'm going to go ahead and stop and fix my granny squares, lay them out as if you were laying them out as if your bag was done. And go ahead and bring your next granny square and fix it up so that you know where you will be making your next single crochet in, or slip stitch, sorry. And in that corner, go ahead and make sure to go into the bottom center first, and then next into your left granny square, and then lastly go into the chain 2 space of your last granny square that you are working on. And now that you have single crocheted or slip stitched all 3 pieces together, now you can go ahead and start working on the bottom center granny square and the new granny square on the left that you have just introduced. And just keep on slip stitching both of those granny squares together all the way until you reach the next corner of your granny squares. Alright, so now that you've reached the next corner of your granny squares, into this next chain 2 space, you will make 1 slip stitch, and then after that 1 slip stitch, go ahead and continue slip stitching your next side of your granny squares all the way until you reach the next corner. This following corner, you will be introducing the other side of your last granny square that you just sewed on. Alright, so now that your pieces are starting to look something a little like this, now you will be sewing in the last square side from the granny square, from the first granny square that we stitched. So again, you will be going first into the bottom center granny square, then into the left granny square's corner, and then lastly into the right granny square corner. And then just bring up your yarn, slip stitch, and then continue slip stitching along the new left side of your granny square. All right, so now that we have finally reached the end, now go ahead and cut a pretty long or decent enough piece of yarn. And what I like to do is, instead of just joining to the very first slip stitch that I made, I go ahead and grab my darning needle, and I really like using this technique because it leaves your work almost like a seamless finish, even though this will be the inside of the bag. But basically you are going to go into the very first slip stitch, and then you are going to be going back into the center of your last slip stitch. Alright, so now that we're done sewing up all the granny squares together, go ahead and flip your bag inside out. And after you do this, now you will begin to do the straps or handle. To start the handle, I went ahead and brought up my yarn in the top chain 2 space. And honestly, I did only about 40 chains for my handle. You can obviously make this longer or shorter if you'd please. Yeah, it all depends on how big you made your initial granny squares. I just tried to make my handle big enough or proportionate enough to my bag, so yeah. Alright, so once you're done with the amount of chains that you made, go ahead and go into the opposite corner, and into that chain 2 space you're going to go ahead and make a slip stitch. And after that slip stitch, go ahead and make 2 single crochets into that chain space. After your 2 single crochets, turn your work, and now you will be making double crochets into that chain that you made. So essentially, however many chains you made, you should have that many amount of double crochets all the way back. So I made a chain of 40, so I will be having 40 double crochets. Alright, so now that I finished all of my double crochets for my handle, go ahead and make 2 single crochets back into the initial chain 2 space that we started from. And after these 2 single crochets, now you can go ahead and cut and tie off your yarn and weave in your ends. But again, before I go ahead and just cut and tie off my yarn, I'm going to go ahead and leave a little bit of yarn and use my darning needle again. And what I like to do is go back into those single crochets that I did, and that way my yarn ends up on the same side of the initial yarn piece that I used or started with from the handle. And now I can easily make a double knot and hide it away within the strap. And that is it for the tutorial, guys. This bag is very easy to follow, to make, to customize. It can be done in so many different colors, patterns. I don't know, this bag has so much potential. Go ahead and try it out for yourselves. Also, let me know what you guys thought of this tutorial. It means the world to me that you all watch all the way through. And once again, thank you to everyone who has recently subscribed. And yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better community to support this channel at the moment right now, honestly. Thank you so much for all the engagement. It really means so much to me. And yeah, I will definitely be putting out so much more content now. And once again, thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, friends.